Foundation Season 2 is out in full on Apple TV+, the sci-fi epic starring Lee Pace and Jared Harris. It's technically an adaptation, although a very loose one, but we'll get to that. An adaptation of the book series written by Isaac Asimov, a book series which I've read through and enjoyed. Now, the first season of the show has been one of the strangest shows I've seen, because you could very clearly draw a line in the middle of it and divide it in two very distinct halves, two very distinct parts of the show, which the episodes would, switch between back and forth. One of those halves was the Foundation storyline, kind of adapted from the books. And I say kind of because it was adapted in the way that the character names and general plot points stayed the same, with lots of other changes. And this part was really awful. The writing was poor and completely missed the point of the books. The acting outside of Jared Harris was amateur. The production value straight up bad. It felt like a sci-fi channel production from like 10 years ago. And then the second half of the show, the Empire storyline, that was completely made up by the writers. It wasn't present in the books at all. And this one was brilliant. Everything about it, from spectacular production design, wonderful costumes, special effects, fascinating writing, and splendid performances, especially Lee Pace, who I think was born to play an emperor. Between his looks and posture and the way he carries himself and his voice, he just commands the screen. So everything about this part was really great. And that's what made Foundation weird. Usually it's the other way around. The stuff adapted from the books or the source material is good and the added bonus is bad. Overall then, the show was, in my book, pretty much average. Now, the second season is out, and I'll admit I started watching it primarily for the Empire storyline because it was just that good before to justify suffering through the other parts. And while many people online have said that the new season is a vast improvement over the first one and that the show is actually pretty great now, I have to say I only agree partially. First of all, the clear distinction is still very much here. Even though we have some new characters from the later books introduced, like General Bel Rios and Hober Mallow, you can generally still draw a pretty straight line between the adapted and the made-up stuff. I'll start with the made-up stuff, okay? The Empire storyline. That is still excellent. Again, Lee Pace could carry this entire part of the show on his shoulders. He's that good. But everything else around him is also quite well done. I like Ben Daniels as General Bel Rios, Laura Byrne as Demerzel. Special effects are great, story interesting. Like I said before, no complaints here. Now, on to the other stuff. There is a visible improvement, I will say that. The sets no longer look shit, the story is slightly better, Leah Harvey seems way more relaxed and at ease with the role of Salvor Hardin, although some of it must have been the writing. But I can't really forgive the show for three things. First, it still completely misses the point of the novels and even actively goes against it. See, the books were all about the idea that on a grand enough scale of time and size of societies, individuals do not matter. That there are societal forces forming around this stuff that sort of govern things, and you can map and predict those forces to an extent. And the show drops all of that and instead is about another chosen one figure with magical powers and plot armor. And this brings me to the second problem, because that character is, for some reason, Gail Dornick, played by Lou Lobel. And I'm sorry, but Lou is not a good actress. In fact, in the entire show, she gives probably the worst performance. She's very one-note and sort of annoying in the way she emotes. And that is really a problem when you force her to be the essentially main character of the entire show now. Which also, by the way, is a huge step away from the books. I mean, there, Gail was pretty much just present in the first, 3 chapters of the first book and then died, and the story moved on to other characters. And finally, the third thing which I have a problem with, which I can't forgive the show for, is that in turning from a socio-political, philosophical exploration of grand ideas into a Star Wars clone with space battles, magic powers, and messianic figures, it also reverts to abusing one of the worst storytelling tools, which is a Deus Ex Machina. The amount of times someone in this show is magically saved at the last moment, magically survives something, or finds a way out of a situation through something completely unpredictable and written as this big surprising moment. I mean, it's just staggering. Like, this character is dead, they've been killed now. Nope, next episode turns out they survived somehow and through some bullshit and we just weren't told. Okay, but this character is dead, that's for sure. No. They also survived at the last moment, but we weren't shown that. Well, okay, but this group of people is surely dead and gone. You'll never guess, they survived too. It at some point it just feels cheap and poor and limits the stakes with the show. When the show insists on pulling random bullshit out of the writers' asses like that and inventing new things which break the established rules of the world. I didn't like that at all. So to sum all of this up somehow, the second season of Foundation still very much remains this strange show. There is an overall improvement from the first one, that's for sure, but the problem of its distinct duality remains. The Empire parts are brilliant, the others not so much, and while it can be an entertaining science fiction show, it is clear that it will probably never be an actually faithful adaptation of the Asimov books.